You are listening to KLRN Radio, where liberty and reason still reign.
Hi, I'm Mike, founder of DollarShaveClub.com. What is DollarShaveClub.com? Well, for $1 a month, we send high-quality razors right to your door. Yeah, $1. Are the blades any good? No. Our blades are f***ing great. Each razor has stainless steel blades, an aloe vera lubricating strip, and a pivot head. It's so gentle a toddler could use it. And do you like spending $20 a month on brand name razors? 19 go to Roger Federer. I'm good at tennis. And do you think your razor needs a vibrating handle, a flashlight, a back scratcher, and 10 blades? Your handsome-ass grandfather had 1 blade and polio. Looking good, Pop-Up! Stop paying for shave tech you don't need. And stop forgetting to buy your blades every month. Alejandro and I are going to ship them right to you. We're not just selling razors, we're also making new jobs. Alejandro, what were you doing last month?
Not working.
What are you doing now?
Working.
I'm no Vanderbilt, but this train makes hay. So stop forgetting to buy your blades every month and start deciding where you're going to stack all those dollar bills I'm saving you. We are DollarShaveClub.com, and the party is on.
I know karate, I know jiu-jitsu, and drive like a gangster when I'm coming to see you, see you, see you, see you.
Today, this breakfast isn't just breakfast. It might be the first McDonald's breakfast you're having at McDonald's again. This lunch might be a weekly tradition you hadn't had in weeks. And this dinner might be the first one you bought for not just you in a while. Whatever this order is for you, McDonald's will be here to take it.
Get more of the chicken you love with a delicious McChicken sandwich for $1. And for an extra buck, add a refreshing Dr. Pepper. Dining rooms are starting to reopen in certain communities at participating McDonald's. Cannot be combined with any other offer or combo meal.
A new year means it's time for a new home network that can keep up. With Cox Internet, you have the speed and coverage your family needs to stay connected. You'll enjoy Cox's fiber-based hybrid network with options for fast upload and download speeds. And if your household has lots of connected devices, Panoramic Wi-Fi may be the perfect fit thanks to its additional control features. Plus, with advanced security on Panoramic Wi-Fi, you'll know each connected device is securely protected 24/7. A whole world of connectivity is yours with Cox Internet. Learn more at Cox.com.
KLRN Radio has advertising rates available. We have rates to fit almost any budget. Contact us at advertising@klrnradio.com.
The following program will contain coarse language, adult themes, references to copious amounts of wine drinking, and there may or may not be some cheese involved, too. Listener discretion, as always, is advised, and suddenly I'm having a computer issue. Bear with me for just a moment. Alright, there we go. Now it's time for the intro. Stupid computer.
Good evening, everybody. This is Darylyn Haywood from the Red Wine, WHINE on KLRN Radio. And, of course, our awesome executive producer, at Roddy Rick Robinson. You can also find him on Twitchy. Diane is doing something very important tonight. You know, she's very, very important. But I have a very important co-host, my friend, and former state Senate candidate from Plymouth and Barnstable counties, Carrie McRae. And
hello,
Carrie,
hello.
This is crazy town, okay? We are one minor terrorist attack in the United States from lunatics trying to lock down the nation, activate the National Guard, and start engineering the next election. I can just hear it now. Like, we can't take a chance on changing administrations in such a vital wartime situation. I really do think that every single politician has sold their soul to the devil. If not the moment they get in office, then maybe a tiny bit afterwards. And some of them are just disgraceful single agenda activists. I like to think of myself as more of an operative. I don't really like the word activist. But I do hope the pendulum swings back in our lifetime, because the state is occupied by a hostile progressive element. And they won't be deterred. You know, they all stick together like gum on your shoe. You can't get it off no matter what you do. It's just stepping in dog mess. You might as well just throw out the shoe. And they do politics and elections better than we do. And
They do.
And they certainly did it today, when they stuck it in our left ear really super hard with this gun bill. And Carrie, do you want to tell everybody what the results were of the vote in the House today, the Massachusetts House of Representatives? If anyone doesn't know, this bill has had, it's like the alphabet mafia. It's had more numbers and letters than Dylan, what's his name? Her name? Whatever. Mulvaney. It's got more, LGBTQIA plus whatever mafia. So Carrie, give us the results of that disastrous, disgusting, AOC gum chewing, Newport smoking, dumpster fire, Jew hating, BU grad.
Okay, so I'm not as colorful as that. I don't know how you follow up on that, but I will say that
carefully.
I know, right? I just pulled up AP article here, and it says it was just posted a couple hours ago. And it's saying that the Massachusetts House approved a sweeping gun bill Wednesday aimed at tightening firearm laws, cracking down on unregistered ghost guns, and strengthening the state's assault-style weapon bans. At least they're using the words correctly, assault-style.
Well, I think they think everything's assault style, right?
Everything. I agree. So it says the bill, which passed on a 120 to 38 vote, would also, what does it say here, would also prohibit individuals from carrying a gun into a person's home without their permission, and require key gun components to be serialized and registered, so on and so forth. We actually, from what I can recall, have the lowest gun rate, the lowest rate of gun deaths in the country. So
I think what people don't understand too is that incorporated in those gun deaths is suicides.
Yes.
So they don't actually separate it from murder and suicides. And last time I spoke to Toby Larry, we were talking about the statistics. I believe he spoke at the Cape Cod Women's Republican Club down here in Massachusetts. And he said that I think over half of those gun deaths are suicide related, which is still sad, but it's not necessarily.
It is.
You can say it's gun violence because, yes, they did commit suicide. But if not, I've covered a lot of suicides. If not for that, then they would do something else.
Yeah,
sadly.
Absolutely. But, we already have, extremely tough gun laws. And I don't know, it's scary when you're watching the news and you're seeing what's happening in Israel. You see what's happening in so many places around the world where they don't have the right and they don't have access to guns, legally and lawfully. And now we have our own government, coming after us. It's only going to affect the law-abiding registered citizens, and I don't know. When you have every single police chief across the state, whether they are police chiefs in a very liberal college, it didn't matter. Every single one of them said no. And our legislators are still like, we really don't care what you have to say. That speaks volumes. And I really, really hope that we see a change in who gets elected, because they're coming after everybody's guns, because it's not going to stop. It's not going to stop here. I was reading that I think when they made some of these adjustments in the bill, like you said, they keep changing the numbers, so on and so forth. Is it only now we can only have 1,000 rounds per gun owner? in our homes or something. I don't want to
Yeah,
misquote,
see,
but it's something like that.
This is very, very suspicious to me.
Yep.
Extremely suspicious, because for me, 2 and 2 equals 4. And you still have these people that have this different ideology. I posted something on our Facebook page. Diane and I run a Facebook page called Double D Uncensored. It's Double D, Daryl and Diane, not the other Double D. So don't get carried away. Go looking for it real quick, because it's not that exciting. It's humorous. But, they allowed all these illegal aliens in, and then they want to disarm Americans. Well, I have a friend in Mashpee who was building over in New Seabury, and a gaggle of illegals were driven there, let out, and they were knocking door to door. Now, I live in the woods. You don't come to my house unless you were invited, unless, of course, you're stalking me, and then, that's happened before, but we took care of that. I don't want someone coming and knock on my door that's a stranger. I will not open my door to a stranger. I just won't.
No, and you shouldn't.
And it makes people even more uncomfortable. They say, oh, we're going to vet these people or whatever, but they can have a gun, but say they commit a murder or they commit a crime. We don't have their fingerprints on record. Nope. So we're never going to know who they are. And it's disturbing, because I really do feel that this is a total violation of our Second Amendment rights. And Toby Leary, who's running for, here in Massachusetts for town council, some people have a mayor, and we have a town council and a town manager. And, someone said on the radio, why the hell would I ever vote for someone who has a gun shop?
Yeah.
Well, are you not going to ever vote for an attorney? Because an attorney protects your right to remain silent. Your right to an attorney, your right to counsel. Your Eighth Amendment right protects you from cruel and unusual punishment when you're in custody. So if you throw out one, they're going to come for the next one. And only you can give them up. And this is why I say absolutely no. I can't imagine that any police chief would be enforcing this. And I mean, if I came to your house and I was back in heat, I'm not going to announce it to you. Hey, Carrie, is it okay if I come into your residence with a firearm that's specifically identified by serial number 2256777, and it's a 6-shot?
Exactly.
And so what, your friend's going to have you arrested for coming into your house with a gun? How does it make any sense? It does not make anyone safer.
No, absolutely not. It's not going to make anyone safer. If anything, I think it's going to leave people more vulnerable, and then, but then the flip side of that too is, we already have laws on the books that are very strict when it comes to, what is that one you must, as a police officer, right? If you have a gun and you're not legally allowed to have it, I believe it's still on the books that if you have a gun illegally, you get arrested, 1 year mandatory.
Well, that's a misnomer as well. The law, it's just like when we had the mandatory drug trafficking laws, where it used to be, I think it was 14 grams was considered drug trafficking. A 5-year or 10-year, felony over 5 years. So
you're breaking up a little bit.
Oh, let me get off my camera. So I think what happens is it gets pled down. So you can be charged with, second, not a second offense, say first offense, trafficking, this and that. Say you hit somebody with it, a dangerous weapon, and you have a plea arrangement, and say it was a drug incident. And I said, well, listen, we'll ask the DA. We can't promise, but we'll ask them to drop the 1 year minimum mandatory, and and you can do less time. You're going to do time, but you do less time. So it's not really a minimum mandatory. It's flexible for what the district attorney wants to do. So
well, and here's the point though, right? No matter what law we pass, no matter it's how are they going to enforce it, and are they going to enforce it? And I think that we're already seeing that, we are way too soft on crime. That's the problem. is we're too soft on crime. So the answer is to go after the law abiding. And I understand, I hear their way around it is, well, if we can limit the amount of guns that are legally owned, then there's a chance that we're going to reduce the amount of guns that become in the wrong
what?
hands.
Here's
But it's
my
all
problem.
BS.
Here's my problem with that. This is the Democrat thinking, okay? Oh my gosh. Everybody's getting tickets. It's the speed limit, right?
Yep.
Because then nobody's going to get tickets. Oh,
Exactly.
we don't want people. We don't want people to be. I can't even think of another one because it's so stupid. But it's like, okay, we don't want people to go to jail for 10 years because they sold drugs. Well, so let's just make it, you can sell all kinds of drugs. You can sell up to 28 ounces of cocaine and only do 6 months in jail. Okay, so you're allowing them to make $500,000 on illegal substance. If I don't pay my excise tax, you'll suspend my license? So,
well, at the end of the day, I mean, the police officers and the chiefs are going to decide which bills they're gonna, which laws they're going to, to hold people accountable for. So it'll be interesting. Obviously, the Senate is going to put their own version of the gun bill forward, and then they'll vote on it. And then, a combination of the two will be presented to Maura Healey. So it'll be interesting to see, but I definitely don't have much faith that there'll be common sense when it comes to this. And, I'm worried about our safety in the future. We've got our borders open in the country. We got our borders open in Massachusetts, and they're focused on, tying back our rights, and it's restricting our rights. It's just disgusting. It makes no sense.
It doesn't, and in no way, and sort of, I know I say this a lot, but when you're a police officer and you've actually investigated real crime, not real crime, murder, rape, sexual assault of children, drug trafficking, human trafficking, you really see the underbelly, disgusting part of human life. And those people are not following the law. Nope. So what I would want to know statistically, is what is the number of properly licensed people aren't dangerous. Mm-hmm. Right? Academia is always going to promote the side. I mean, look at the COVID vaccine. That's a perfect example. Mm-hmm. It didn't work, and they promoted it, and they're still promoting it, and they're still pushing it on our children. And I just know we have enough of the pronoun BS. I'm so sick of it. I got to read you this really silly.
You keep getting a little broken up. I don't know
am.
If you realize. Yeah, it keeps breaking up.
Oh, no, I don't know that. I don't know why that's happening. Probably because I'm on my laptop and I want to be on my phone. How's that? Is that better?
That is better. But yeah,
okay.
It keeps kind of doing it. So I just wanted to let you know because I didn't think you could tell.
It's a terrible. Oh, she's telling me it's crackling. Rick, is that me? I'm getting texts that I'm all crackled up.
Yeah, it's you.
Yeah, it's on your end. Cause
I don't know what I do with that.
Look at your band, your Wi-Fi. Maybe you got to move somewhere in the house. Better.
No, Wi-Fi's good. Wi-Fi's good. I'm trying to. It's not working either. Is it really bad now?
It did it for like a second there, that just a second ago, but it wasn't like it was before. It seems like anytime you try to talk for more than a minute or so, it decides to get cranky.
I'll talk real quick. So this says, I have the privilege to be this evening to plan the use of opportunity to better understand diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging initiatives. If you're impacted or invested in this work, feel free to reach out to This is the same school. September, sorry, at last 6.
You're breaking up again.
I don't know why that's happening.
And it's weird because it stops as soon as you stop talking. I don't know why either.
Maybe somebody's playing with you.
Well, that could be possible. I've had my stalkers in my day. So, I don't know, Carrie. I mean, all we can do, and we both ran for office, all we can do is try to educate people as best we can.
Yeah, broke up again.
Oh my gosh. Well, I don't know what to do about this, executive producer.
I'm not exactly sure either, because whatever's happening, it's happening on your end. I just ran a speed check and we're everywhere we're supposed to be.
Okay.
Do you have Skype on your phone?
Well, Carrie,
anything?
why don't you chat for a little bit? Go ahead. Tell us what's going on here and what's going on in Plymouth. What's going on with the shelters? What's going on with the illegal aliens? Are we jumping into the canal yet, or what are we doing?
Well, I will say that even just last night we had our Bourne Republican Town Committee meeting, and positively, I guess it was, we had quite a few new people that came to our meeting, which was awesome to see. People that are frustrated and frustrated with not just the world and not just our federal government, but even just our local, right? We were told here in Bourne by Maura Healy that we can't kick anybody out. We have bylaws in Bourne where it's 21-day stay in our hotels for the whole year. And she said that we can enforce the rules of our 21-day stay bylaw in Bourne, Massachusetts on the citizens, but we cannot enforce the bylaw on illegal immigrants.
How does that make any sense?
It doesn't. And that's the thing. When she sits there and says we have a crisis, we have a housing crisis, which we've been hearing for years, and we do, absolutely. But then when you couple that with our tax dollars supporting, after she polled all these people and invited them to Massachusetts to, and now we're paying for it. We're filling all of our hotels and I mean, it's crazy. Was it 23,000 plus people, illegal immigrants, who are here in Massachusetts living in our quote unquote makeshift shelters, i.e., motels and hotels across the Commonwealth. That's definitely not going to help with the housing crisis. I mean, that's pretty much like a small city, right? And people are starting to get frustrated, and they're looking to local officials to hold up what the law is and what our bylaws are. And I think people are getting upset, and we can't just say, oh, well, we tried. We have to continue to push back and give them pressure. And I'm hoping that people will start to do so. I don't know. It's I don't know what's going to take for people to speak up and say enough is enough. I really don't.
Well, people don't pay attention. Like I said the other day, I didn't really pay attention to politics until it walked into my living room and sat down at my kitchen and walked upstairs and down the hall of my bedroom and then jumped underneath the covers with me. That's when I was like, wait a second. Why are we talking about stuff that's under our clothes and that has to do with our kids? And that's when I started to get, when I first met you, a little upset about that, you want to tell my kid they can be a girl or boy, like, whoa. And I think, and then everybody was like, oh, it's mean if you say, and that's how they do it. Oh, it's mean if you say, misgender somebody or mispronoun them, whatever. No, it's proper English. She, him, they. And it's not I don't feel it's my job to make everybody comfortable.
Nope.
If you're that insecure that you're going to, I'm going to touch your feelings because I said he and not she, and I can't tell the difference. It's getting to the point of it's ridiculous. And I think the more of us start to speak up, the more of us will speak up. Right.
Well, and I think that's the key too, is it's one.
Oh, I lost you.
For people they should have the freedom to do that, but that should not fall on us to reinforce untruths. When something is not true and we realize it's not true and others know it's not true, that we have to acknowledge and reinforce untruths. That's a problem. That's where you've drawn the line.
Well, I couldn't believe when Calvin Klein came out with that ad, babies. I was like, oh my God, the world's insane.
Yeah.
And I used to say, hey, get in a huddle. And I'd joke around. I'd say, oh, don't do it, Carrie. Carrie, don't do it. No, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. Oh, Carrie, please don't do it. Look what happened last time you did that. And you mumble in your hand. And then you throw it into a crowd like it's pixie dust. And all of a sudden they're like, men don't have babies. You're like, see what I did? And what you're doing is conditioning people how to think.
Yep.
And that is extremely dangerous. I think Hillary Clinton said all needed to be deprogrammed.
Yeah.
And perfect example, our executive producer, Roddy Rick Robinson, at Roddy Rick 73, at Roddy Rick 73, he had this great picture of a Marine.
Oh gosh.
That cracked me up because everything's an insurrection. If you're a Republican, you're an extremist. The name calling and the childish behavior is part of the rules for radicals. Get control of education, make everybody poor, increase the poverty, increase the number of people that are poor, which allows them to all gang up and want to tax the rich, which increases poverty again. So there's some people, like me and like you and like Rick, once you see it, you can't unsee it.
Mm-hmm.
Once you're awake, you can't go back to sleep.
Well, you know what I think it is too, is it's sad, right? It's sad because, people that are struggling with that, they're struggling with gender dysphoria. That is what it is. And it's sad that we went from, helping people to work through their struggles and their questioning of things, to now acknowledging, and it's just becoming so far extreme. Like there's now it's like an endless amount of
flags, an endless amount of flags.
I mean, it's just everything. I mean, there was a children's book, there's a children's book out there that, talks about the pronouns and it shows children that are, I guess you would consider them to be non-binary, right? You might look at them and assume one or the other. But then as you flip through the book, it literally gets to a point that it says, so-and-so could even use the pronoun tree, because they identify as a tree, a beautiful, tall tree. And as I'm reading this book at the school committee conference they have every year, it was out on their beautiful table of all these wonderful books to bring into the schools with our children. And I'm reading it and I'm thinking to myself, okay, see, this is where the problem is, because I know you and myself and many, many other people who are Republicans, independents, even Democrats, who acknowledge that, there's truth and then there's not truth. Doesn't mean we need to be mean, but we're not going to lie. And we're definitely not going to tell a child that they acknowledge that they really are a tree. Yeah. You're not a tree.
Isn't there a song that's
it's just insane. It's insane.
You know that song by, I think it's still Miliband, really love your peaches, want to shake your tree. And it's so funny you said that. I immediately thought of when I took the psychological test for the state police. And I remember it was like, do you think you're a tree? Yes, no, sometimes often. I'm like, what? I don't even, because of course you're thinking into it. You're like, of course I'm not a freaking tree.
Yeah.
Like,
but am I
but
supposed
then-
to think I'm a tree?
What does that mean? Or
Cherry
like,
blossom?
do you wish you were a singer? Well, yeah, I mean, I wish I could sing. That'd be kind of cool. But do I want to be a rock star in front of a million people? No. I want to live a normal life. So, you know, when you start to accept the absurd, like, you know, Queers for Palestine, you know, these colleges, Queers for Palestine. I'm like, you're going to be Ichabod Crane.
Yep.
With Hamas standing next to you, and they're going to play soccer with your cranium. So
exactly,
there's a cognitive there that is almost unexplainable, and I don't get it.
Nope, me neither.
It doesn't make any sense to me. And
What'd you say? I'm sorry, I kind of broke up.
They'll take a position just to be contrary.
Yes, I agree.
Just to be in opposition
like a
to
teenager,
something.
Right? It's like
Exactly.
a teenager. You know, your teenagers are going to push the envelope, and that's why, like I say, like we can't blame, you know, the people that are, have this position. It's the people that are, you know, the lawmakers and the educated people who are kind of pushing back and saying, hey, you know, that's cruel. And it's like, no, wait a minute. You know, I don't know. I don't know. It's out of control. I know that.
Well, one of my friends says to me, forget the right and the left for a moment. The real battle is between people who want to be left alone and those who refuse to leave other people alone.
Yeah.
Right?
Well,
just leave me alone and stop shoving your stuff down my throat.
Yeah.
If you want to be whatever you want to be, okay, but I'm not going to step into your dysfunction and pretend, you know, that you don't have a booger in your nose, because I'm going to tell you, you have a booger in your nose, because that's what people do, right? I'm not going to just pretend that the booger's not there. Everybody sees it. But, you know, when you look at that kind of dysfunction, you know, when this first, not that trans has, if you watch NYPD Blue, I just happen to notice there's a lot of trans references there, and it's hysterical because the cops don't treat them any different. They just do stupid things. But if you ever have a chance to watch that, there's a lot of trans references there. Here, you know, like one of the senators was like, "Oh, police are targeting transgender streetwalkers." I'm like, "Yeah, you know what we do? We all sit around at the green table and drinking our coffee, and we're like, hey, how many trans did you lock up last night? I'm going to lock up 10.
I know.
It's not a contest.
It's not.
But this law in itself, in what has been happening in our education, because that's where it gets infected, right? That's one of the rules. Teacher, I mean, I don't even know how you can stand even. Sometimes I can't even stand to look at some of these teachers because they're nuts. Forget about your constitutional rights, but your God-given rights are, I have a right not to be killed. I have a right not to be raped. I have a right not to be robbed, right? I have the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Why are you trying to disarm me? That's the question people have to ask. And, you know, these people that are holding up these signs of, you know, this one got killed, that one. Yes, you know what? And that's unfortunate. But you don't give up rights.
Nope.
You never give up a right. And this gun bill, I think, is an end run around the Constitution.
Yep.
I think what it's going to
end up in court.
I think it'll end up in the Supreme Court. I mean, and then
absolutely.
God forbid we don't have the right. You know, we don't have the right leaning people there. You know, rational people. But who are they going to call the first time someone attacks them?
I know.
You know, because if everybody makes mistakes in the jobs, license? Or, why can't we decommission a senator when they pass an unconstitutional bill?
Mm-hmm.
Everything else regulated except for politicians.
Yep, that's right.
So the fact that Post can take away someone's whole entire for saying does is it makes you a felon by just having person.
We lost you again.
Wait, what?
Said we. I don't know if she could understand you, but I couldn't. For about
No,
the
I
last
couldn't.
30 seconds.
I couldn't understand any of it.
I don't know what to do about that. Maybe I have to get a new laptop.
If nothing else, as long as you're not the one producing, just put Skype on your phone.
I have it on my phone, but I need to get a new phone. I don't know if anybody has any suggestions, but I think I have a 1972. I think it has wheels on it. It's the worst phone ever. And I can't see it now because I'm 57, so I can't look at it if I'm in the car. Right? Because I can't put glasses on while I'm driving.
Gosh.
But Rick, what are you seeing out there in the national spotlight when you speak to some of the other hosts on KLRN radio? What is their thoughts on Hamas and Israel and what's going on and how it affects even down to local governments and in Jim Jordan and trying to pick a speaker? And what are you hearing?
I mean, the consensus is pretty much the same. We have a feckless, rudderless leadership that is steering us, and I use that term loosely, towards World War III. Also regarding Hamas and Palestine and all the above, most everybody's on the same page there too, and feels like, pretty much everybody that's waving a Palestinian flag right now probably deserves to be deported.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think, I don't know if you remember that we called.
Hang on.
And he was saying that he wanted to start shipping any LGBTQIA++, BIPOC or whatever that have these, Queers for Palestine, and see if they want to, take a vacation.
Well, Queers for Palestine kind of finishes that off. You don't really have to say all of those letters anymore. You can just call them the alphabet Nazis. Because they literally are alphabet Nazis. So it's
how did we get this mental illness? Has it always been, or is it something that the educational system has been cultivating for
well, I mean,
quite some time?
To be fair, it's always been there to a point. See Germany, World War II. However, our educational system since basically the beginning of the Department of Education at the national level has been steering us towards this. The thing about it is, Carlin was right. He put out a bit decades ago talking about how all the government really wants is people that are just smart enough to do their jobs and unplugged enough that they don't give a shit about anything else. And that's what they've been trying to steer us towards. The problem is, while they've been trying to do that, they've also, because the left keeps losing control of their useful idiots over and over and over again. So they've started reminding everybody of all the protected classes. And you need us. We need you. Yep. But you'll notice, anytime anybody goes off the reservation, I can say that, I'm part native. Fuck off. Anytime anybody goes off the reservation, and I'm more native than Liz Warren, just for the record, but anytime anybody goes
I'm sure you are. Your cheekbones are much higher.
Off the reservation, then they come unglued. I mean, you've seen it with Thomas Massey, you've seen it with Clarence Thomas, you've seen it with all of the Hispanics that came out pro-Trump. You saw it with Biden in the 2020 election cycle. If you ain't voting for me, you ain't black. That is the most racist, condescending thing I've ever heard from a geriatric white man in my life.
It's disgusting.
Yeah.
And they lapped it up.
Yeah. And here was someone that when Kamala Harris, before she became whatever she is. I swear to God, she's doing drugs. That woman is just insane. But she called him a racist. But if the price was right, she'll be president.
Her problem is that the price has
know
never been wrong.
what it was, during the revolution and after the revolution, where it's a service. You come, you do your service, and then you leave. And I don't know how we get back to that term limits. I mean, States is one way, but we have these people that are just in there and they're just making millions. I mean, even Ted Cruz during when the prices skyrocketed. If you look at his holdings, he has more holdings in gas and oil than probably anybody in Congress. But they have this nice guy face on the outside, and that's the problem. You become a duplicitous scumbag.
Well, that's why we need term limits. I mean, term limits, would make such a huge impact. Thank God we have a rotation every 4 years for a new president, you know what I mean? Or at least the option to vote. But there needs to be term limits. I mean, it's as simple as that.
Can I explain?
So
hang on. I want to go into that real quick because we have term limits here, and it sucks. And let me explain why it sucks. When you get to the point where the House members or whoever are terming, because they can only serve so long in each part of the state house, one way or the other. Once they hit that point where they know they're almost there, their last year in office is nothing but lining pockets on the way out before they jump out with a golden parachute. With term limits, it would be even worse. So the problem that we have is everybody seems to forget that when the Constitution was written and when our government was founded, these people were not being paid. They were allowed per diem for their travel, and then they were in D.C. for 2 to 3 weeks at a time, a couple of different times a year, and then the rest of the time they were required to be home working and with their constituency. That is what we need to get back to, because with technology the way it is today, we don't even need Washington, D.C. anymore. But they need it because that's how they get their validation.
Well, and the power is so centralized there as well. But can we address the
I'm sorry, I lost you at elephant in the room.
They create a problem to solve a problem, right? So people are talking about, well, what if when the election comes up that Biden starts a war and then he refuses to relinquish power? And I don't believe that that's in the Constitution as far as, my education in the Constitution. Are you enlightened in that area at all?
Technically, the Constitution can be suspended if martial law is declared, but it's only supposed to be for a finite time frame. The problem with this is the fact that everybody's starting to say this about Biden. If you'll remember, that was the exact argument the left used about Trump, is that by the end of his term he was going to start a war and he was just going to never give up power. So the reason this is important now is because this goes back to something that I've been saying for the last 3 years. Everything they've ever tried to accuse Trump of doing or have accused Trump of doing is something that they've already done.
Right. And, what's it going to take for people? What is it when those Republicans, I was losing my mind. I was coming back from Fall River with a couple of my friends and actually Mike Arnold. And I was hearing Jeffries, Jordan, Jeffries, Jordan, Jeffrey, Gates, Scalise. I'm like, you idiots. First of all, Gates doesn't want it. Scalise doesn't want it. What are you people doing? Are you actually willing to give it to Hakeem Jeffries?
I'm probably about to piss off a lot of people that are listening, but I will die on this hill. Matt Gaetz is an anarchist.
Well, if being a mini anarchist or
there's a difference between anarchist and minarchist. Minarchist is when you recognize the fact that you need government, but you want your government to be small enough that should the need arise, you can drown it in a bathtub. I am a minarchist. Matt Gaetz is a full-on mouth-breathing, frothing anarchist. And how I know this is because he threw the speaker out for working with Democrats by working with Democrats to throw the speaker out with no plan on how to get a new one. That's an anarchist.
Well, that's what I'm worried. That's what I was pissed about, because I said Matt Gaetz is going to hang by his toenails if we have. I think that those sort of things should be used. You know, if you're going to, you know, our sheriff down here, if you're going to take over a jail, you need to have suspend all activity. So if you didn't have a plan, that makes no sense to me.
Look, and
who says the government has to make sense, right?
And I'm going to be honest. McCarthy did some things that pissed some people off, but my problem was that these 8 Republicans were basically strutting around the House and strutting around Congress like we had a supermajority in both houses. We didn't.
Exactly.
We don't.
And so
that means
they're rolling
things
the dice and betting the whole lot, right, on roulette.
Well, and that also means
nil.
That also means that things are going to happen that you're not going to like because it's the only way to get things done until you have full control. So everybody was pissed off about the funding that McCarthy was, but the thing about it is the thing about it is everybody was throwing a fit for weeks about how, especially Gates, every time he had a chance he ran to a microphone. Well, we could have done some spending stuff today, but McCarthy chose not to. That's not true. McCarthy...
Well, that's personal too, right? That's a personal animus.
Well, McCarthy on the way out the door told everybody, look, I tried over and over and over again to bring the separate spending bills to a vote the way the caucus said that they wanted. 8 Republicans and all the Democrats stopped me every single time. So the thing that pisses me off about Gates and the thing that I can't seem to get anybody to understand is McCarthy only got the job by agreeing to give Gates the power to call for a vote and have a 1-vote threshold to put it to a floor vote to have him deposed. That has never happened before. So Gates set him up for failure and then ran to the microphone every other day. McCarthy's not doing the right thing. McCarthy's not doing that. That's like when the I mean, granted, when
you're kind of both sort of.
When McCarthy passed what he passed on that Saturday, it wasn't what anybody wanted, but it stopped the Senate from pushing through an entire year of an omnibus bill. It gave us 45 days to go back and start working. We can't do any of that because we're now at a standstill. So because now these 8 people can't decide who they want for speaker, now they're talking about giving the temporary speaker more power to get things done. When we give anybody more power in D.C., does it ever get given back?
No, never. Absolutely not. And this is what makes me mad about Gates is why throw the baby out with the bathwater, which is kind of a weird thing and like an obtuse thing to say, but
I lost you.
With Matt Gates, what's the next thing that's someone's gonna now this whole infighting, and it seems to me like it's personal.
It is personal.
Things that happen in politics,
definitely
do what's best for the country.
It is personal. Gates didn't want him as speaker in the first place, and that's why everybody's talking about the temporary speaker for throwing Pelosi out and the other guy that got tossed out. That actually wasn't him. That was McCarthy, because McCarthy went to Pelosi and said, at this point, the only way I'm going to be able to get the gavel is if I agree to this 1-vote thing. And she said, don't worry about it. If it ever comes up, I've got your back. She kept her word the only way Nancy Pelosi knows how. She voted present instead of voting to have him thrown out.
Yep.
So on the way out the door, he said, hey, Gam, fuck you, you're out.
Yeah. Did it seem to me like the days of, maybe I'm just, reminiscing or what do they say, waxing, whatever. As a Speaker of the House, and even if he compromised, he didn't seem as weak as Gates would make.
Well, that's what we used to say.
Or is it just because I'm looking backwards?
Well, that's what pisses me off. That's what we used to say we wanted, is somebody that was willing to reach across the aisle and get things done. I understand. Right. I understand how polarized the left is now, but at the same time, when you only have a 5-seat majority? I think 5, 6, somewhere around there. Mm-hmm. When you only have that slim of a margin, that means you have to compromise. The definition of compromise is everybody's pissed off. McCarthy did his job.
Right.
The left didn't like him. The right didn't like him, but shit was getting done. I haven't seen a speaker be able to get things done like that since Gingrich.
Yeah, he's I don't know, some people either really like him or really dislike him. I happen to enjoy his books. I mean, I think, at the end, they're all kind of, narcissistic control freaks, because who would want...
Of course. Why the hell would they run for that job in the first place if they weren't?
Well, exactly, right? Well, power and control. But the reason why I was surprised that they would even put forth somebody like Jordan, I mean, in my view, I would want to put someone who is nuanced in that, but also expendable. And I don't mean that in a way where, a throwaway person, but expendable in the way, like, do we really want Jordan not to be in the Judiciary Committee anymore? Mm-hmm. And so does he lose his seat in the Judiciary Committee if he becomes Speaker? I mean, do we really want to lose him there?
Well, the whole point is there's an election in about a year. So the entire makeup could change anyway. That was my whole thing with Gates. I was like, this fight can wait. He was getting things done. We were starting to finally start moving towards the impeachment inquiry. We were at least getting things paid for that absolutely positively needed to be paid for. And the only reason that I was okay with the fact that the government did not shut down, at least temporarily, is because for the first time in the history of shutdown, the Senate voted basically that the military not be paid if a shutdown happened. That has never happened before. That's one of the things that everybody was passing around. These things are still going to happen. You're still going to get this. You're still going to get this. You're still going to get this. Your military is still going to be paid. And that's why everybody's like, well, fuck it, then shut it down then. And then all of a sudden, Ted Cruz puts out this voice vote where when you hear this person say aye in a moment, that means for the first time in history, if it happens, that the military will not be being paid during the shutdown. And then all of a sudden there's a call for a vote and somebody says aye. He's like, there you go. No military pay for the first time ever in
it's always a shell game though, right? It's always a shell game because they used to do that to us here in Massachusetts. In my particular unit, we ran out of money and, we didn't get paid for it or whatever it was, but you eventually get paid.
You do.
So it's bullying in a way, and seeing these huge, like you said, these huge omnibus bills like that we just passed in Massachusetts. It's extortion, is what it really is.
Well, and that's part of what this caucus kept saying they wanted. They wanted to go back to single item requisite, basically single item budget bills, so everybody could see.
Do you think we'll ever see that, a single item budget?
McCarthy tried.
How
McCarthy tried.
Yeah, I think that's a pipe dream because how else are they going to extort the other side?
Well, that's exactly it. So, I mean, you guys said earlier, how do we fix this? And somebody mentioned term limits. Let me tell you how we actually fix it. First of all, the president needs line item veto powers. Most governors have it. I don't know why our president doesn't. He needs the ability to be able to go through the budget and say, hey, even though you guys approved this, we don't need $50,000 toilet seats. Hey, you with the glasses over there, here's $20. Go buy a toilet seat at Walmart. Get the fuck away from me. That's one way.
But that's assuming, right? That's assuming that there is an integrity in the person. Did you laugh your tush off when you heard that Biden was going to Israel to conduct talks? Was he going to? Hey, what do you want? Ice cream? I mean, like.
See,
why is this allowed to go on for so long?
That Biden that Biden impersonation was way too animated. It needs to be a cross between Droopy Dog and Boomhauer.
Well, you can't see me tripping, so I tried to make it a little bit more verbal. But clearly, my dad had dementia. This guy's got dementia, and I don't know what they're putting him on so that he can actually speak for 3 minutes. But how are we supposed to have faith in the Democrat Party alone when we have someone like that in office?
It's scary.
I don't ever remember this happening.
The closest we ever got was Reagan, and he was out of office by the time his Alzheimer's was really starting to kick in. I remember as a kid, everybody was freaking out because he had that hot mic moment where he basically, right before a press conference, was like, the bombers are rolling in 5 minutes, and everybody's freaking out.
Staring, just a blank stare.
They're freaking out because they think he's giving away state secrets, and it turns out, because I know this because I actually interviewed his chief of staff once. He's like, that was on purpose. He knew the Russians were listening to everything he ever said, so he would say shit like that just to fuck with them. I was like, that is awesome.
So I don't know. I think people are in one sense, right? I want to say, I gave a talk in Sandwich the other day, and I said, listen, everybody got up and was like, we're getting a bag beat out. let it, you've let the child wet the bed for 10 times and now it stinks. And now you have to throw the whole mattress out. But we've let this happen for so long because people didn't pay attention, because politics is messy and I don't like politics and I don't like the drama. There's politics in everything: marriage, friendship, seeing your pharmacist, going to your doctor. Like, there's politics in every single thing. So why won't people stand up for their own rights? Like, why?
Because they're afraid of getting attacked.
I mean,
they're afraid of losing their jobs.
She's not wrong.
You know?
I mean,
I know that. I mean, I filed a lawsuit against the state police. When these prisoners were brought in.
You break it up again.
Give a kid a C? I don't understand that. Maybe it's just me. Like, I just don't get that lackadaisical kind of sit back and do nothing. It's not in my bloodstream.
Well, we grew up in a different time. These kids have been told the government's going to fix everything for you. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Well, I think that was the biggest lie, right? When Biden said, "We're going to pay off all your student loans." What a great way to extort
cure
people.
Cancer.
Yeah.
I remember calling my dad, and of course he voted for Biden. And I said to him, I said, "Dad, I'm okay with this now." He goes, "What?" I said, "I'm okay with the fact that you voted for Biden. Did you just hear he's going to cure cancer?" And he was like, "Carrie, you're not funny."
I mean, if we're getting completely serious, we could cure most cancers in about a generation.
Oh yeah.
I'm sure we could, but it's profitable. It's profitable.
If we,
I'm a stage
misdiagnosed
3 breast cancer survivor, and let me tell you, I know wholeheartedly we could cure. We probably have already found the cure and said, let's hold off a little longer.
Oh no, it gets even worse. They're now finding that most cancers are caused primarily by the things that we ingest, because all the chemicals that we're putting in our bodies.
Oh, for sure.
So
that we allow.
Just as an example, I was a weapons instructor, and I'm in a superintendent in Massachusetts, super endemic region for deer ticks, right? So I was out from 1987 until 1998. I mean, out in the field, in waist deep, ticks. Yeah. And they misdiagnosed me for 10 years. They must have spent hundreds of thousands of dollars. They told me I had epilepsy. Then they told me I had a heart murmur, and then I had water surrounding my heart, and then they told me I had MS. And it's the first time I ever saw my husband cry for not because somebody died. And I couldn't get up off the floor. And a friend came over, and she's like, she's an engineer as well out at Otis, and she said, "You have Lyme disease." She gave me her medication. I took it for 2 weeks, and I could stand and go to the bath. I could stand and walk and go to the bathroom. I thought my life was over. And I think this happens an awful lot because they're profiting from duplicitousness, and that's just it's just really sad. And that's academia again, right? They're not rewarded for. I could stand and walk and go to the bathroom. I thought my life was over. And I think this happens an awful lot.
Sorry, I was checking audio quality because they were saying. Because they were saying other stuff in the chat too, but I think it is. Just
but Rick, as an example, right? You were shot on the job, and when that kind of trauma happens to you, you really start to reevaluate what your life's going to be like, right?
Everything.
And and that's when you realize, I think when something really traumatic happens to you like that, like Carrie, I mean, you can speak to this, right? You start to think, okay, what's important?
Exactly.
People that I love and love me back, people that treat me well and I treat them well back, and that's quality of life. No matter what kind of money you have, no matter what kind of wealth you have, it's mental stability when you're at your worst physical condition. Am I right, Rick?
Yeah, no, you're
absolutely
1,000% right.
Right, and people don't have that now. They don't have a mental stability or a center because I think the worst thing that happened was the internet divided people into all these different categories, right? So if you're, a right winger, a left winger, you're a nut or whatever, you can only go in that nut group, and you don't have to ever come out of that nut group.
Well,
we're growing up,
we
had channel 4, 5, 7, and 25.
To be fair, it started before the internet, but the internet put it on steroids. But you guys are officially at the end of the hour, so.
Oh, gosh. Woohoo! All right. Well, Carrie, thank you so much. Rick, thank you so much for joining us. And Diane, we love you. We know you're very important, and you have a super important mission that you're on tonight. Carrie, I hope you come back with us again. Where can we find you, Carrie?
Of course, yeah. CarrieMcCrae.com. This was great. All
right, Carrie, and that's on, are you on Facebook as well?
I am on Facebook as well. Yep.
All right. And Rick, you have a new gig at Twitchy?
Yep. Twitchy.com. There pretty much every
All right,
day.
great.
All right.
We'll see you guys next week. Thanks for tuning in. KLRN Radio, the Red Wine. Thank you.